crossover ball, jumper. It's good. 50 points for Jason Tatum. It's a 7-point lead. Brooks gets a running start. Bain steps back three-pointer. Williamson, stout defense, threw it to himself. Oh, he's eviscerating the Celtics inside. Wow. But he's got to take it personal. They're going to defend him with a small perimeter. Oh, Gary Payton with the flush. Goes right at Bain.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Deep from Three. As always, I'm Devin Withers, joined alongside my good friends Gary Sunnyberger, Isaiah Hansen. Fellas, how are we feeling? We got a fun night planned ahead tonight.
Oh, we are drafting tonight. We've been talking about it. I know we've posted about it on our social medias, but I am so hyped for it. We're going to be talking a lot of trades and stuff like that, too, for the beginning of the season for Donovan Mitchell, but I'm so excited.
Same here. This is redemption because, look, decisively, we got to say Andrew Wiggins won the draft last time we had one of these for Gary. So this is redemption for me. I need to – what does that say? Is that what
nothing. I was just, nothing. I was just showing off my shirt.
See, he's just trying to convince me not to take somebody in this
He's
draft.
getting in your head already.
Maybe I'm playing a little bit of mind. I keep messing it up.
Are you really going to
mind games?
Patrick Ewing will be out on
the my nose a little bit here.
Yeah. So listen, guys, we obviously, like I said before, we have a fun night planned ahead. We're going to try to get to it as soon as possible because I know everybody wants to see. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, either during the show or after the show. I don't believe any platform ever has done a draft of only number one picks. I tried looking everywhere. I can see top 10 players selected number one. I can see the worst players drafted number one. I can see ranks lists. I can see a bunch of other things. I can't see a draft of number one overall picks in which you're trying to make a starting lineup. So I think I'm really excited. We talked about this. This has been planned throughout the whole entire week. So that's what we're going to get to towards the end of the show. Before that, we're going to be talking about Deandre Ayton. We're going to be talking about Donovan Mitchell, a few other things. So let's hop right into it because not so long ago, fellas, it looked like Deandre Ayton at one point was going to go to the Indiana Pacers, and then the Phoenix Suns stepped their way back in, matched the 4-year, $133 million maximum offer sheet. It marks the largest restricted free agent offer sheet in NBA history. So, Isaiah, let's start with you. What do you make of the Phoenix Suns bringing back Deandre Ayton? We sort of saw this formula last year. The Phoenix Suns, obviously a great regular season team. What do you think of this?
So I don't mean to toot my own horn or anything, but I did say the Phoenix Suns cannot afford to let him walk. It's not like you have free agencies free agents lining up at the door, unless maybe you do. Maybe there's a guy that's wanting to get trade there. But aside from that, you can't afford to let go of a center like Deandre Ayton. And is he the best center in the league? No. But you didn't get Rudy Gobert. You didn't do that. So you had to re-sign your number one draft pick. This is your best chance. I don't think you're going to win a championship, but this is your best opportunity with Chris Paul, Devin Booker. You need a big man. Deandre Ayton. Is it a lot of money? Yeah, but if he can get better and continue improving, then it is what it is. You go all in. You have no choice.
Yeah, and Gary, he makes a great point. I mean, I sort of saw this coming. I figured they were going to match at some point in time before the clock struck 0. The biggest offer sheet that wasn't matched in NBA history, believe it or not, was just a few years ago in 2016 when the Dallas Mavericks signed Harrison Barnes to a 4-year, $94.4 million. And the only reason it wasn't matched, should I note, is because Kevin Durant ended up joining the Golden State Warriors, so they had to make that space for KD to join the roster. But, Gary, when you first saw the news, what were your initial thoughts about Deandre Ayton returning back to Phoenix?
Well, it was interesting to me because, of course, I thought he would be awesome in Indiana. Maybe not like in a championship level contention like he is in Phoenix, but I do think that DeAndre Ayton in Indiana would have been just cool from a guy who they're trying to get Tyrese Halliburton to build around standpoint. And he's a number 1 overall pick. Not saying we're going to take him, this part of the draft. There's a lot of centers in that lineup, but DeAndre Ayton, the reason he gets paid so much is because of his defense. If he was not on the court during the Phoenix Suns series against any of the big men that they have to face in the Western Conference and potentially in the finals with Joel Embiid, if you're not able to have a defensive guy at that position on the floor, that's how you win basketball games with one of those dudes. So you see Rudy Gobert winning, Defensive Player of the Year, getting traded to the Timberwolves, and think, well, maybe they messed up. Maybe they could have gotten a veteran in there, but you get your guy for 4 years. Yes, it's a lot of money, $133 million, but you're also not paying him the max that you could have paid him when he was when he had the option. That was him and Robert Sarver. There were those pictures of them getting food, and then we saw the next day they didn't agree to an extension. We thought he was gone, but I think Phoenix realized, like Isaiah said, if you don't have a guy like that, at least in your building, you aren't going to be able to compete for a title, because who else are they going to get? What's their next guy? Kevin Durant, cool, but you're having to give him up, and the Nets you see don't even want DeAndre Ayton, so it doesn't even matter. But yeah, they had to go with the safe bet, and if you're trying to maximize the end of Chris Paul's career, that's what you got to do.
Yeah, I think the part that was most interesting about this for me is I think the Pacers were under the assumption that DeAndre Ayton was as good as gone, because if you guys remember, when they shipped out Malcolm Brogdon, they got 3 players in return. They got they waived Dwayne Washington, and they also waived all 3 of the players they got back from Boston in that Malcolm Brogdon deal: Malik Fitz, Juwan Morgan, Nick Stauskas. So all 3 of those guys were waived. They gave up a number of players and a number of picks along the way as well. And so you're sitting here wondering, are the Pacers sort of just kicking themselves, being like, man, we could have kept some of these guys. We were just trying to clear cap space for the time being. No, all those guys aren't superstars. They're more role players than anything, if anything. But that was the part that was most interesting for me. And then also, he can't be traded until January 15th. And if I read it correctly, he can't be traded without consent for a full year. I think that's the way we read it. There was a little bit of miscommunication when the news first came out.
Yeah, he can be traded on January 15th.
Yeah.
If DeAndre Ayton doesn't want to do it, he can just cut that. No, we're not doing that. And then he stays in Phoenix for at least until whenever he signed his deal. I believe that was like a couple days ago. So at sometime in July of next year, he will be able to be traded again, where his no trade clause will officially be, I don't know if the waived is the right term, but it's not there anymore. So yeah, he can be traded then, but at the same time, after that, or don't you, if you're going through another year of Chris Paul and you say you don't win a championship, Devin Booker, of course, is going to be your cornerstone for the rest of your, hopefully until he retires. Maybe it's a good thing that you got DeAndre Ayton this long-term deal because of the length of Chris Paul's longevity. And will he be good again next season? I think so, but how good is really the question. And if you have some insurance in DeAndre Ayton, I feel a little bit better about it.
Would you rather have DeAndre Ayton or Rudy Gobert?
Next season, Rudy Gobert.
Next season, Rudy Gobert.
3 seasons from now, DeAndre Ayton.
Yeah. Isaiah, you feel the same way?
If you're trying to win a chip next year, Rudy Gobert is flip-flop them. I guess, I don't know if the Timberwolves, if we're going to do it like that way, but if instead they trade, Utah trades DeAndre Ayton for, they swap that, I think that works out better for Phoenix this year than it would. Now, then you have to pay him like $56 million in 3 years. Go look at that Rudy Gobert contract. Tell me that's a good idea. I mean, I think he's good this season, maybe next season, but 34-year-old Rudy Gobert, that's a lot of money, dog.
No, exactly. And speaking of the Utah Jazz, what a perfect segue is not Rudy Gobert, but his good teammate and longtime not so close friend, Donovan Mitchell. When the news first came out that Donovan Mitchell was at least seeking out trade options, or the Utah Jazz were seeking out trade options for Donovan Mitchell. It caught me by surprise because I feel like over the entire offseason, there's been conflicting reports about whether they were interested in trading him and just going for a full rebuild, or whether the plan was going to be to trade around him. And now you almost have to ask yourself, because Rudy Gobert was worth apparently 4 first-round picks, a pick swap, and 5 players, including the number 22 pick in the most recent NBA draft in Walker Kessler. So it makes you wonder if Donovan Mitchell is now worth at least 5 first-round picks, is probably what you're looking at as a starting point, not mentioning pick swaps or additional players as well. So once again, Isaiah, because I know the New York Knicks have been at least in the trade rumors, talk to me a little bit about Donovan Mitchell. What should I expect from this offseason?
Why would the Timberwolves do that? Why would the Timberwolves do that? Okay? Because let me tell you something. All they did was really ruin the market for me as a Knicks fan to get Donovan Mitchell. Now it's like you really can't win in this scenario unless – I guess I'm not so, like, as a Knicks fan, so worried about the draft picks because we don't know how to draft it anyway. So it's like, okay, well, like you probably do better at these anyway, right?
That's the RG Barrett truther.
But I'm seeing the RJ Barrett name. Like, that's the one that we hit on. And you had a top 3 picks. So it's hard to miss. Mm-hmm. And, I'm seeing that potentially RJ Barrett and picks. Like, that just can't happen, okay? Like, that cannot happen. It's not going to lead to a championship. I know I always say, like, the Yankees are on a tear right now. I'll always say, like, hey, if this is the Knicks, I'd be happy. But in the end, if we're going to give all of that, you got to be in at least – real contention. And I don't know if Donovan Mitchell alone does that with the team that we have. But I do expect a team to bite for Donovan Mitchell. Somebody's going to get desperate. Are they going to get 6 first-round picks? The Utah Jazz is the question. I don't think so. But I could – it's one of those things. Like, yeah, if Gobert gets 4, he should get 5, right? It just makes sense. But
that's the problem with the Kevin Durant trades. Anybody looking to go get Kevin Durant, you got to think that, oh, Rudy Gobert, well, look what he got.
Yeah.
It's like when someone comes on your block in your apartment comp, like if someone comes on your road when you own a house, and then all of a sudden you see that you buy your house or you sell your house for $800,000, and then the guy down the street sells it for $1.8 million, and now everybody's property taxes raised, and you're like, wait, hold on, I just bought what? Well, hold on.
Look, with all the confusion of the Knicks off season, though, I did want to share something. I actually went to the NBA store in Times Square, and I ran into somebody. So I have a little clip. It's a little special treat. I just wanted to show really quick. Here we go.
I'm excited.
I thought the Knicks off season was lost. We're talking about getting rid of.
Hang on.
I thought the Knicks off season was lost. We're talking about getting rid of RJ Barrett. We're talking about getting rid of Randall. But you saved the off season for me. You made it an off season. Thank you. Goodbye.
Yes, thank you, Kevin Durant. Because as bad as this Knicks offseason has been for me in my eyes, seeing the Nets explode, it's the most gracious thing in the world. Kevin Durant is probably my favorite player next season that's not on the Knicks. So,
yeah,
well, I feel if he agrees with everything you said, just like that bobblehead could do, then I think I'm sorry, the real Kevin Durant.
Yes.
Then yeah. So that's cool. He's a lot shorter in person.
Is he? No, he's pretty
maybe
tall.
Isaiah's just taller.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't think I know how tall you are. You could be like
you've
6'9",
seen me drain threes in the past, so you know how it is.
Drain threes.
So
yeah. So Gary, let me ask you this. Gary, let me ask you this, because there's really 2 routes, right? And I mentioned at the beginning of this segment, I said they're either going to completely rebuild and trade away Donovan Mitchell, and you got to sort of expect if you're trading away Donovan Mitchell, you already traded away Rudy Gobert, you're stacking up on picks and whatnot. That's a full rebuild. That's textbook definition. Mm-hmm. Or you have to go ahead and try to plan and build your team around Donovan Mitchell. So if you're in the front office for the Utah Jazz today, what's the executive call? Are you shipping out Donovan Mitchell and capitalizing on the rebuild, or you think that Donovan Mitchell can be a centerpiece to build around in this Western Conference?
I think that in terms of the Utah Jazz fan, you without Donovan Mitchell, what do you have if you are not competing for NBA basketball? There is no other sports teams in Utah. Yes, you have college teams, but there's not really another team in the United States that is located in Utah. The Utah Jazz being good has been a staple of that culture and that franchise since the 90s and even before then. So when you lose the ability to market yourselves like that, and they have the All-Star game there, I think, this year too. Is that correct? I'm pretty sure. Let me look that up. But if you do have someone like that and you are going to sell him away, you better get more than what you got for your second best player who you just sold away. So if you don't get that, you hold steady. I'm a Heat fan. Watching Dwayne Wade get traded away broke my heart. And I know Donovan Mitchell isn't on that level yet in terms of like success and like longevity on a team. But if you get a guy like that, Donovan Mitchell, who when we see on, reports on Twitter and stuff, he seems to want to stay. Of course, they're looking to trade him. Danny Ainge is in the front office now. And so he's kind of that, like, you saw him give everyone away from Boston, and they gave him to the Nets. And then that whole thing happened. So I'm interested to see if we see a typical Danny Ainge just kind of selling while it's hot, or if he's willing to kind of break that mold away and do Donovan Mitchell is one of those guys that you never know. Somebody could all of a sudden want to team up with him one day, and then you have a team in Utah that's at least contending for playoff contention, doing stuff like that. I'm not saying that they're going to grant any big free agent, but you literally never know with trades and everything like that. And maybe Donovan Mitchell just brings in some young guys and they turn into like some sort of Cavs Grizzlies kind of young team that has a core nucleus that is successful once you trade Donovan Mitchell. But I think your best bet is to keep that man in 45.
I just want to say something. There's a method I follow in fantasy baseball, right? Or fantasy basketball as well. You don't trade a guy for a younger version that you're hoping is going to become the guy you traded. Because really, when you trade Donovan Mitchell, you're just hoping for those picks that you get one other player of his caliber. Yeah. And, for what? This is what I say.
Because everybody thinks that they can draft like the Oklahoma City Thunder and get Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden.
Yeah.
But then you end up drafting like drafting like the New York Knicks, and you take Kevin Knox. And you draft like the Heat and you take Shabazz Napier because LeBron James tells you to. You can go either way. Now that was a 20 pick. But still, those draft picks, like Isaiah said, if you're trying to get Donovan Mitchell, or trying to get another guy to replace Donovan Mitchell, why not just keep Donovan Mitchell? Yeah. Especially if you're getting a guy like when the proposed trades with the Heat, you see they're going to take like the Heat's this pick. As long as Bam Adebayo and Jimmy Butler are on that team, I don't think they're at least not going to be like a top 5 pick. Why are you trading those picks? What are you getting out of those? Maybe we blow it up like the Nets, and now the Rockets look great, like they could have some success if the Nets tank and everything like that. Mm-hmm. But if you're going to trade Donovan Mitchell, you got to trade him to a team that's worse than you are, so that you can get picks that matter, because trading him for a bunch of 20 overall picks isn't going to help your franchise.
No.
Yeah, and what's interesting too is a lot of people will point to, okay, well, trade Donovan Mitchell because if you keep him, it's a lot like DeJounte Murray, where his prime is sort of being wasted by the San Antonio Spurs. You saw him obviously go elsewhere. But the thing is, the Utah Jazz have not – Gary mentioned this before very briefly, but they haven't had a losing culture really – dating back to the 90s, and especially over the last few years. They've made the postseason in the Western Conference, which I think we can all agree is a lot more competitive than the East has been for a while. They've made the postseason in each of the last 6 seasons. Mm-hmm. You want to know the teams that have had a longer streak than that? I can't tell you because nobody has in the Western Conference.
Yeah, see? They're
nobody
good.
Has, not the Golden State Warriors, not the Los Angeles Lakers, nobody in the Western Conference has made it in more consecutive seasons currently for an active streak than the Utah Jazz with 6 consecutive seasons. But then all of a sudden, they trade Rudy Gobert. Their head coach, Quinn Snyder, resigns. They're giving up pieces left and right, it seems like. So I don't know. If I were the Utah Jazz, it's tough to say that they're going to compete this year. You almost want to tank this year, keep Donovan Mitchell. I mean, 4 first-round picks is a lot already. I don't think you need another 4 or 5 because, like we said before, you're really just trying to draft the next Donovan Mitchell if that's what you end up doing.
Or you draft a guy who's decent and then package all the rest of the picks that you got from your other dudes to get, I don't know, 37-year-old Paul George. Who knows?
Oh, man. But, fellas, I don't know how you feel, but I feel like it's time. What do you guys think? It's time.
I am ready. That probably destroyed everyone's headphones, but I am ready.
I can't express to you how much we've been talking about this in the group chat over the last few days. We talked about lack of depth at certain positions. We talked about the greats. We talked about adding positions as well. So here's how it's going to go. I predetermined the draft order through a randomizer minutes before the show, so we did not have any time to prepare with where our current status was.
This is rigged.
Yes. Background music. Isaiah is going to go number 1. I will go number 2. Gary's going to go number 3. It's going to be snake order. So for those not familiar, Gary, the last pick in the first round, will then have the first pick in the second round. The way that the rosters will be assembled, you get 5 starting players, just like you're building a typical NBA starting lineup. You get a point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, and a center. And then lo and behold, I keep throwing surprises at this team, and they keep rolling with the punches. I looked at the list, and I said, there's too many players. This is going to get disrespectful. Let's add a 6th man or a wild card spot. But with that being said, your wild card spot has to come last. So, for example, you can't draft Magic Johnson with your first pick, and then with your next pick say, all right, well, I'm going to draft Oscar Robertson, and I'm going to throw him in my wild card spot and focus on my other things later. So everyone's wild card pick will come last. Before we start, gentlemen, any questions about how this is going to work?
I am 100% ready. I am going to, as the kids say, son both of you. I'm ready. Let's go.
Just make sure you don't let Gary draft Andrew Wiggins, please, because that did it last time.
Oh, if we draft Andrew Wiggins, we win the chip, baby. Don't even worry. Don't even worry.
Yeah, and then I assume
with a cigar and a champagne bottle.
I assume we posted the graphic in before, but I believe we can post a graphic of what everyone's picks ended up being, and we'll let the fans decide who had the best draft.
Yes,
just like
I will make that once this all ends, and I can get down on the computer and download about every 25 different player pictures. I'll throw them up on there. We got it. We're doing it.
Awesome. Well, gentlemen, I don't know what else to say other than let's get started. So, Isaiah, you were setting up this stream when I posted the actual draft order itself. So you get the number 1 pick out of any player drafted number 1 overall in NBA draft history. Do you have anything you want to say before you draft Andrew Wiggins?
I don't want to secure the win just yet, because otherwise, if I draft Wiggins now, it kind of kills the rest of the draft, right? So
yeah, it's a little OP, bro. It's like it's like Goku.
Exactly. So I'm gonna go with the second best. Okay, look. Thankfully for the 1984 draft, this is a lot easier for me to pick. This is not a surprise. Like, you know who I'm gonna take with this pick, right? I mean, it's quite obvious. I think Gary was trying to make me not take this guy with the shirt that he's wearing. But if I didn't take him, Dev would have took him. Of course, I'm going with LeBron James. Of course, number 1. Easy pick. Thank you, 1984. Otherwise, I would have taken Michael Jordan. But if there's any player to start your franchise with, especially if I'm getting his entire career, you're talking about 20 years of relevancy, assuming he doesn't leave me, but I'll try to keep him happy. I'll do whatever.
I think with the picks you're going to take in the future, I think LeBron will be pretty happy.
Yes.
Yeah. Just a reminder too, I forgot to mention this before, but we also all agreed that the picks, their positions have to be at least somewhat realistic, right? So we can't just draft 5 centers and say I'm going with the biggest starting lineup of all time. So with that, Isaiah, I would let LeBron basically fall into pretty much any category, like probably small forward, power forward is probably what you're looking at right now. So I put him in the small forward slot for now. Yep. So that brings me And this is tough because
Bing, 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 ding, ding, ding.
there's
What do you got?
there's one player that I don't think is going to fall to me. And if he doesn't fall to me, it's going to hurt. But there's also just the best player on the board, right? So there's so much depth at this position, but I almost look like a fool if I don't take this player because he's so much astronomically, I would argue, maybe even better than LeBron James if you're going all-time.
I like
But
where you're
I'm
going.
going to go with none
I
other
agree.
than Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the Dream. So I'm going to throw him in my center slot. I know Gary loves that pick, not because
Oh yeah.
he was expected to take Kareem, but because he knows there's so many centers on this board: Shaq, Hakeem, David Robinson, Patrick Ewing. The list goes on and on and on with greats. But I felt like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. It's crazy to let him fall to number 3, number 4.
I think you're 100% correct. I think, of course, I'm taking Kareem if you don't, because, like, all-time leading scorer in points. Not only is he an amazing basketball player, but a human being as well. Go Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
So, with that being said, Gary, Gary's gonna round out.
Picks in a row.
Yep. So let's start. Let's start with
right.
the one. Yep.
I am gonna go a little controversial here because for my first pick, I of course am going to go with not only the best passer I've ever seen, but probably one of the most electrifying human beings when it comes to basketball media and his tenure as a coach and his tenure as a general manager. I am going to go with Irvin Magic Johnson as my first pick of my consecutive pick, because not only is he the best point guard on this, but he's also 6'9", and none of this list is 6'9". So, at least for a point guard. So good luck. For my second pick, and this is what I deem controversial because there is an obvious best player available right now. However, some of these positions are very slim pickings. So, for my second pick, I will be selecting Allen Iverson as my shooting guard, because after him, the list drops off. I'm not gonna, dog on some of these guys, but I'm just telling you, it was a lot easier just to pick Allen Iverson here than worry about a guy who was drafted 2 years ago. So I'm going with Magic Johnson and Allen Iverson, and I will update my stuff right now.
See, so let's start with Magic Johnson. I thought that was the right pick. I thought the top 3 players coming into this were in order. I had a toss-up between Kareem and LeBron, but I thought for position-wise, you're probably going LeBron 1, you're going Kareem 2. I thought Magic Johnson was the third best player on this board. And all of a sudden, man, I tell you what, I really thought about taking Allen Iverson number 2 overall just to cover my shooting guard spot. But
I'm so happy he fell.
Yeah, I got other plans. I got other names. I got other strategies. So I'll let you have that one. That was a good win right there.
I'm just glad. I'm so happy. Allen Iverson, you got 2001 where he absolutely went nuclear. Whatever George Bush did. Finals. Of course, you had Dikembe Mutombo on the team and the year candidate, so it's a win actually. So he did the best. Was he great? And so I got to take him. Oh, am I lagging really bad? Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, we're gonna bench you until your next pick comes up for a few seconds.
Understood.
But yeah, once again, great picks. Allen Iverson, like you mentioned, that 2001 season absolutely dominated. I would argue probably one of the most influential basketball players of the early 2000s as well. So I thought it was a great pick, not a reach whatsoever, especially when you're talking about the lack of depth at the shooting guard position. Which then brings me to the board. I have Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, so I no longer need to pick and choose at the number of names at center. But it doesn't mean I can't go after a big man, right? Because I think there's a top 10 player in NBA history on this board still.
Can I guess?
It's none other than Tim Duncan. So I'm going to ride with Tim Duncan, put him at my power forward. And I don't know about you guys, but the size of my team with Tim Duncan and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, I love the start of this team.
Fundamental.
The fundamental, yes. So, Isaiah, that brings it around to you. You get 2 picks. You have LeBron James on your team already. Tons of names, tons of talent out on the field. What are you sort of thinking right now after I sort of shook up your brain with that Tim Duncan pick?
You really did, because that's actually who I was going to go with, because you talk about establishing a winning culture on a team, and that's what LeBron James wants. With Tim Duncan, it would have been perfect. And of course, AI, that was definitely on my mind as well, because like you said, the lack of presence, and you just got somebody with heart with him. So it does change my direction a little bit, because you guys literally took my two guys I was thinking of taking next. I think I'm gonna go. Oh man! All right, look, I gotta do this. I gotta secure, because you guys got some big men. I already have one of the most freakish, dominant players in NBA history. I think I need to bring it home a little bit. We're talking about the most dominant factor in NBA history. I was gonna consider holding off on him, because there is quite a good amount of centers on here. But damn it, I'm gonna take Shaquille O'Neal, and I'm not mad at it at all. You get Shaq Diesel. I mean, do I really got to explain myself? You get 2 of the most dominant players, if we're talking especially in their prime. Yeah, I'm fine.
No, that's another. Listen, that's a top 10 player in NBA history right there. You can't be mad at that whatsoever. I think that's a fantastic selection. And of course, LeBron James and Shaq back reunited, and there you go. So now you get them both in your primes. That's a great couple of names to start off in the end of the second round. And Isaiah, I'm interested. You still got point guard, shooting guard, power forward. What are you sort of looking at now?
Yeah, I'm thinking. I'm looking more or less for the best player. I'm taking a different approach from you guys. But you talk about going controversial a little bit. If we're getting the best version of these guys, right? I'm not going to look too far into history, not too far back in this time, okay? I do want a pretty good point guard. I got a nice center, and I got a nice forward, and I need a guard. Right? Mm-hmm. I got to do it. See, I'm tied between this guy. Like, I know he's had an injury history, but at his best, at his prime, we're talking about the youngest MVP. I'm going to go ahead and I don't care, man. I'm talking about the best version of this guy, right?
You really doing this at number 2?
Who?
Oh, no, keep going. You
want to take your guess? We'll take your guess. I know.
You already said it was the youngest MVP. Just do it.
Derrick Rose, man. I'm doing it here, man. We're talking about the best version of him. Now, if you told me we're taking into account the injury history, obviously you throw this out the window. But I'm talking about the best version of Derrick Rose next to LeBron James and Shaq. You need somebody that's going to be fighting, and that is Derrick Rose. Like, I would trust him to go against AI. I would trust him to go against, well, Magic's a big fella, but
we packing the paint on Isaiah's team. Yes. Don't even worry.
So we got D Rose, man. I had to do it. I did consider another guy, but you know what? I'm going with D Rose for the coach.
Oh man, Isaiah. This is a tough one to swallow, because I was gonna let Derrick Rose fall back to me since Gary already picked Magic Johnson. I wasn't expecting you to do this to me. I thought you were gonna go with a different name. I know who you're talking about.
I thought about it.
I'm gonna let him slide to me a little bit. This means I basically have to counteract what Gary might do to me, because Gary needs a power forward and needs a center, but I already have both of those. Center for Isaiah is already gone, so there's a chance that he takes power forward. There's also a chance he takes small forward. So I have to take who I believe is the best small forward on the board. Maybe it's my bias, maybe it's my Lakers bias, but I'm going to go with none other than James Worthy.
Ooh, okay.
Like it.
All right.
Worthy, put him at my small forward position. So I'm going old school names. I'm going James Worthy, Tim Duncan, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and I only need to draft my guards now.
Okay, I like it. He was actually my third-ranked small forward.
Okay.
So I like it.
Interesting.
So does that mean it's my turn now? Could you guys hear me a little bit better?
Yep, it's your pick. Yep, we can hear you.
All right. So I have, if I remember correctly, let's go down my list. I'm going to give you my thought process here. I got Magic Johnson, and I got Allen Iverson.
Mhm.
So I need a big man who is going to not only be the anchor of my defense, but also one of the greatest post players of all time. Someone I can just pass the rock to. Magic Johnson and him are going to have an incredible team. Hakeem Olajuwon at my center.
Okay.
Guy who I can defend. That's all I need. Just defense. And by the way, he also is the post player in his generation and possibly has the most iconic move of all time. Really bad
Very-
stuff on it.
You're like an episode out of iRobot or something. I don't know what this is. I know it's raining by you. Isaiah may have tried to skip your pick.
Yeah.
But
Can you hear? I got the other one.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
yes, we can hear you. Yep.
Okay. My second pick of this is going to be none other than James Worthy.
I just picked James Worthy.
Elgin Baylor, my bad.
Elgin
My
Baylor.
brain is lagging too.
Elgin Baylor. All right, that's a good pick. I like Elgin Baylor. Elgin Baylor at your small forward. Is that what you want?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, so that leaves Gary with just a power forward. Tons of names out there for big men.
Yeah.
That's a good strategy to leave the big guys last. I went the opposite direction. Took who I believe was the number one ranked center, the number one ranked power forward, and who I had as one of the top ranked small forwards as well. This leaves me with either a point guard or a shooting guard. I'm going see, this is where it gets interesting because I can go
I'm with you.
I can go old school or new school with this next pick, but when you're talking about winning culture, as Isaiah puts it, I'm going to grab my point guard. I'm going to grab who I argued just a couple of weeks ago was almost like was just being passed. Steph Curry just passed this player in all time. Oscar Robertson. It's disrespectful that he fell this far, but I get another legend. I get Oscar Robertson, James Worthy, Tim Duncan, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. The young kids are going to hate this lineup. The OG fans are going to know what's up with this lineup. I'll tell you that much. And I get a shooting guard on the way back. But before that, Isaiah gets his 2 picks.
So I'm not gonna lie, I'm starting to struggle over here because, like you said, there's not a lot of shooting guards in here. But I wonder, is it against the rules to have a guy who could go off guard?
It's as long as it's realistic. So I'm not gonna let you have like I don't even know an example, but I'm not gonna let you just throw Anthony Davis into your shooting guard position.
Okay, no, right.
But there are certain players. Let's name the player and then we'll go through. If I want the player, I'm gonna say no.
Okay. All right, look, because I'm looking at this field here, right? There are still some good centers out there, but of course, I do have my Shaqs. I'm good there. I do want to secure the backcourt a little bit, okay? So I already got Derrick Rose, and I don't know how these guys are going to fight for the ball in some instances, but this is a guy that sometimes isn't really a point guard in the first place, right? And it's the guy that I considered taking last time, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it, okay? We're going to go with Kyrie Irving. Not only is he one of the best shooters in the draft, and that's here, you know, the thing with LeBron and you know, this is a championship duo already, so I like it, and they're trying to play with each other again. So I'm going with Kyrie. Okay.
Yeah. And that definitely was a thief pick, without a doubt, because I'll tell you what, I didn't think he was going to go in this direction. I thought he was going to bite the bullet and take like an Anthony Edwards or something like that, and not really think outside of the box in that perspective. So I was definitely going to do the same thing because I had shooting guard open. I was definitely going to take Kyrie Irving as my shooting guard, but that's a good pick. I'll allow it.
That makes me feel good.
It'll be my 6th man.
Okay. All right. So we got that set. Now, I'm not going to take this. I do need a power forward. Okay. I could go small forward as well, but I do want to keep LeBron as a small forward. I think he's one of the, I think he's the greatest small forward of all time. You talk about biting the bullet, but we are talking about the best versions of these guys, of themselves, right? We're not talking about current version, but even the current version isn't bad, right? I already have size. Okay, I got Shaq, I got D Rose, I got Kyrie, I got LeBron James. LeBron James is the leader of this team. I'm letting LeBron James pick this guy. He picked this guy to come to LA with him. I'm going with Anthony Davis. We're talking, like, unfortunately for him, it's not the Laker Anthony Davis, it's the Pelican Davis. But we got Anthony Davis in a Laker uniform. Whatever, with LeBron James. Here we go.
Okay.
So I feel good. Okay.
Isaiah's starting 5 going into the wild card round. Derrick Rose at point guard. Kyrie Irving is going to play off guard. Then you got LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Shaq.
Good luck.
Not bad. Not a bad starting 5. I think a lot of the new school people are definitely going to love this lineup in particular. I believe Shaq's the oldest player out of all of them. And
I didn't mean it to go this way.
no, listen, it's all part of the strategy, all part of the game. I like it. I think that's a good starting 5. And now you got me, and I'm also in the same position where I'm like, I need a shooting guard as well. And there's not really anybody except for Anthony Edwards out there. And don't get me wrong, I like Anthony Edwards. But maybe I just shoot myself in the foot because wasn't there a guy that when James Harden left, wasn't there a guy that was going to play in the backcourt with Kyrie Irving who just didn't make his way into the season? But with that being said, his time with the Philadelphia 76ers was pretty good. I'm going to go with none other than Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons is going to play in that backcourt. He's not going to be shooting threes, but he can play pretty much any position. I would have allowed Ben Simmons to literally go in any slot, including the center position. So I have to take Ben Simmons. I'll take Ben Simmons over Anthony Edwards. Prime versus prime. Give me Ben Simmons.
Dev, so wait. Okay, so can you run me down your team real quick? You had
my team is going to be at the point guard position. I'm going to get Oscar Robertson, top 15 player all time. I'm going to get Ben Simmons. Granted, he's my weakest player in my starting 5, but he's big enough to hang with any guy in any era. I get James Worthy, championship experience. I get Tim Duncan, top 10 player of all time. And I get Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, top 3 player of all time. 3 of the top 15 players, not to mention Ben Simmons and James Worthy, both guys with lots of potential. I like it. I'm going to take it. I feel good because I'll tell you what, if you let a certain player fall to me in the wild card round, it's going to get even spicier than it just got.
All right. It means it's our pick, right? You guys can hear me okay?
Yeah, hardly.
Here you can't see.
Amazing. I am going to go with Blake Griffin.
Oh,
see, that's what I'm thinking
forward.
Going up and down.
All right, he's out.
No. Blake Griffin at power forward. Prime Blake Griffin was a top 3 player in the league
At that time.
You picked Derrick Rose for 1 season.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Fair.
He was the best player. Come on, incredible dunks. My team's flying all over the place. I did have an idea that I did want to do, but I chickened out at the last moment. But I'm gonna go with Blake Griffin.
I don't know what to say. I will say this. Him dunking over that Kia or whatever that car was, it was all the camera angle. He dunked over.
Oh, it was rigged. No, that was rigged.
It was rigged, absolutely. But listen, there's more things to be upset about than Blake Griffin as the number 15 overall pick in this draft.
Listen, all I know is Magic Johnson and Blake Griffin.
I have the new school Magic Johnson on my team and Ben Simmons though.
True.
Which, gentlemen, this brings us to our wild card round. You guys tell me, because if we leave it as it is right now and we just continue the snake order, it would then be just, I believe, Gary, myself, then Isaiah. We just want to keep it just that way. All right, let's do that. So, Gary, you can pick any player at any position, but it better be good because there's a lot of talent out there.
My pick at center that is going to come off of my bench to back up Hakeem Olajuwon will be David Robinson, the Admiral. Just going to drop all the points, all the rebounds, 73 points in a game, correct? Am I wrong?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably right.
I'm going David Robinson. I could have gone Patrick Ewing and did the whole Knicks thing and trolled Isaiah, but I gotta go with David.
Thank God he did.
Yeah, and listen, I'm gonna great pick. I thought he's the best player available on this board. Here's my problem, right? I get a 6-man, I get someone coming off the bench. You really think Tim Duncan or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar are gonna want to spend any time on the bench? I don't need a big man. I need someone, just anybody, athletic enough, freakish enough, just exciting to get some of these new school players going, new school fans paying attention. I need butts in the seat of my stadium, which will be packed out, sold out every single night we play at home. I'm going to take someone that Gary argued should have been higher on the current list of players at his position, or not in his position, playing on the Supermax, received the Supermax this offseason. I'm taking Zion Williamson as my wild card pick. Zion Williamson.
Amazing decision, my friend.
I mean, okay, I get it. The best version, right, that we've seen so far. I get it. Okay, that makes sense, right? This was tough, but you just talked about how Kareem and Tim Duncan probably don't want to spend much time on the bench. I mean, my guy probably wants to spend some time on the bench in Shaq and AD, right? Especially later on, Shaq and AD with his injuries. And this is tough for me to do. Because I got on Dev so hard for this not too long ago, maybe a couple months back when we were talking about the top 75.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I'm going to do it. We're talking about the best version, the guy that led his team to the NBA Finals. That particular person, not his whole career, but that person that was in the NBA Finals that led his team there. Oh, man, I don't want to do this, but it makes all the sense in the world. It makes all the sense. It does. Prime Dwight Howard coming off the bench, and you surround him. If we had more bench guys, give me a couple of shooters. I'm doing it. We got 2 lineups there, okay? You need a guy that's going to be dominant. And at his prime, it's hard to – you just talked about Magic and Blake Griffin. How about LeBron and a prime Dwight Howard? Or how about, that's a fun team to watch. And it's man.
You just committed one of the most asinine –
Stop it.
I've never seen.
The guy played 15 games, okay?
Can we just take
my guy took somebody to the NBA
Patrick
Finals.
Ewing going undrafted.
The lifelong Knicks fan who talks about RJ Barrett, talks about the Knicks, talks about this, talks about that, passed Patrick Ewing up for Dwight Howard. I get prime Dwight Howard, but that's prime Patrick Ewing you're talking about.
Listen, I gotta put him in against the Rough Riders that you have and Ben Simmons. Okay, it's just but you drafted Zion Williamson, the guy that has played 30 games in an NBA season. My guy is taking a team to the NBA Finals and was looking like the most dominant player. You got some people saying he's the GOAT for some ungodly reason. I have no idea why, but if you watch that season and only that season, you might consider that.
Oh goodness!
Before you guys kill me in rankings, I will be changing a little bit. I will be
Something.
moving David Robinson to power forward and putting Blake Griffin on the bench. I'm allowed to do that, correct?
Yes, I'll let you adjust your current lineup. So you'll have David Robinson going in for Blake Griffin.
Swapping.
Swapping in. Okay, gotcha. Okay, I'll allow it.
Defense, maybe. I gotta have defense.
Yeah.
Oh, and then my bench guy is Blake Griffin. We're dunking on everyone, especially
Which then means you also passed up Patrick Ewing.
I know.
Blake Griffin.
Listen, I almost took Anthony Edwards as a joke, or Andrew Wiggins as a joke.
You should.
Andrew Wiggins on that list.
I gotta explain the Howard over Ewing, okay? Because I'm looking at the play styles. I'm looking at who am I gonna have on the bench with Dwight Howard if I were to keep going. I need somebody that's gonna spell Shaq. I just want a full quarters of dominant interior dominance with LeBron James crashing the boards, and then you have Derrick Rose who crashes, and Kyrie could shoot, guys. Let's not forget, right? So I'm happy with it. It almost makes me sick, but I had to do it.
Yeah. Here's the players I still had on my. Look, you guys want to do just an honorable mention? We'll just do one honorable mention. We'll exclude Patrick Ewing for the time being.
Okay.
Isaiah, start off. Who do you think on this that wasn't taken should have definitely been taken at some point, aside from Ewing?
I was surprised that you took Ben Simmons over this man, because I thought this would have been a nice. Well, you got James Worthy, but I would say like a good shooting guard for you, off-guard player. John Wall at his best. That's one guy that should have been taken. And if we kept going, that would have been who I would have taken next. John Wall. I mean, at his best, of course, we know the injury history and all, but if he's one of those big what ifs as well.
Yeah, he was on my list first. He was my next point guard on my list for sure. Definitely a consideration, but I gotta keep it spicy. I gotta, Ben Simmons was a pick out of left field that no one saw coming, and gave for great content. Gary, how about you? What's a player that you thought just got passed up and you didn't see coming?
I think I passed up on a guy that I probably should have taken as my sixth man. Probably one of the best sixth man of all time. Bill Walton, going undrafted. Now, I'm not saying he's the best center on this list. I've got an MVP. He was, incredible player for that 86 Celtics team coming off the bench, and when he was in Portland and actually playing as an MVP. But he's if we didn't have to take if we're just doing a solid 15 best players of all time, I think he gets a lot more, but gets like 18 now. He gets a lot of consideration considering how good he was in his prime. Of course, injuries, like Isaiah said, with a lot of these guys, kind of derailed their max potential. Bill Walton is a guy. Chris Webber I had on my list as well. I also had where's he at? I see it right here. You could even go with someone like David Thompson, who in the 80s, 70s, and 80s was a great player, didn't pan out very well due to a lot of health reasons. And so, he was dominant at his time, but he's a little bit too old for, my knowledge of how well he played when he was playing.
Yeah, I'll tell you one player, and I'm shocked his name wasn't even mentioned, because if we're talking injury history and only wanting guys at their best, this was a player, probably one of the biggest what-if players to be taken number one. I would argue probably the biggest player, both as a metaphor and literally, Yao Ming. Ming was drafted in the 2002 draft ahead of Jay Williams at number 2, Mike Dunleavy at number 3, and Drew Gooden at number 4. It wasn't a great draft class, but Yao Ming was averaging 25 points per game in his best season. So I was considering Yao Ming as a sixth man of sorts, but once Isaiah took LeBron in the first round, I had to go Kareem, and after that the dominoes just fell the way that they did, and I had to go big man with Tim Duncan on the way back. And man, but there was a lot of depth at center, I'll give you that, because did we mention Chris Webber already? Elvin Hayes was out there. Elvin Hayes was out there. Karl Anthony Towns was a new school player that was still out there.
Yeah. I'm thinking that could have been like if somebody would have taken AD, I probably would have taken Cat. Without kind of. I mean, he is going to be a power forward going into the season. So I could have kind of finessed it a little bit, but
I'm not going to lie. There was a small part of me when small forward wasn't looking so bright in the darkest of times. I was considering, just for the giggles, I was considering Paolo Banchero as one of my picks. And I'll just roll the dice. Whatever happens, happens.
It's just the best version of him is
yes, the best version. Yes. Oh man, but that was fun. We'll over the course of the off season, I want to make sure we do a lot more of these. It's definitely going to garner some attention. People are going to be asking for us, so we'll come up with new topics. Maybe we do second round picks. Maybe we do something else. People from a certain decade. So we'll go back to the drawing board. We'll figure out what the next best topic is that we want to cover, and we'll cover whatever the people ask for. So I had a great time with it. I'm excited to see what others think of it. And unless anyone else has anything to say, I say we wrap this thing up.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much it.
We're going to kick everyone's butt. Not really. I probably drafted a terrible squad. Whatever. Who cares?
Take it easy, guys.
I objectively, I don't like my team as much as I thought I would.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think we could probably all say that. It kind of we had one idea and then went the other way. Yeah. But yeah, we'll be back. We'll do more of these, and maybe we could talk about fantasy basketball. Before the season starts. Maybe we get more people involved. We'll just see what happens. It's a lot to look forward to, though, right? So
yeah,
I guess so. That's it. See you guys next time.
Peace out, guys.